It's time for a mid-year 3D news update. 3D news, we're going to be talking about 3D in the home theater, 3D in the movie theater, and 3D on your phone. First off, Turbine is finally releasing Hollywood movies on 3D Blu-ray. If you recall, last year, Random Space Media from Australia was one of the few sources of major 3D films that people from all around the world would order from, and unfortunately they went out of business. Soon after, Turbine from Germany teased that they would be releasing these 3D movies soon. Well, it finally happened this year. First off, to be clear, they're not releasing any new unreleased titles, but they said they are actively working on doing that. They just can't say what titles yet. They're being released under the name Turbine Collector's Series, and there's a couple interesting things about their release strategy. One, it does not include a 2D Blu-ray, so therefore it doesn't include those bonus material apparently, just the movie. I reached out to Phil Friedrichs from the company, and he said, "We chose not to include anything but the feature, to have every bit of disk space for video and audio bitrate. The standard 2D releases have been around for years and are now available at a low price point anyway. Whoever wanted the 2D presentation probably has it. Our releases are all about the 3D features." But here's the interesting part. The discs are newly mastered. Usually when there's re-releases of 3D discs, it's usually incidental, like with the steel books that they had at Walmart recently, re-releases of with a 4K combo pack, like It Came From Outer Space, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and others, where they would just repress that same disc, and as well as other movies like Jaws 3, where the 3D was included on the disc already, they just didn't bother remastering it. Well, in these cases, the first three movies they're releasing are Jurassic World Dominion, Minions: The Rise of Gru, and The Bad Guys. And unlike the RSM releases, these will have Atmos audio, which many people were disappointed that the first versions of those discs didn't include. And they also come in collectible packaging, so you get a reversible cover with different artwork and English on one side. Now, continuing on with the topic of home theater, there was some excitement in the 3D community recently regarding the supposed release of a passive 3D projector. Now, before I get into this, let's clear something up. 3D projectors are active. There has only been one commercially released passive 3D projector. This was made many years ago. It would be very hard to find a used one, as they weren't all that common. And even if you were, you'd be probably overpaying, and it wouldn't be that great because there are lots of better looking options today. Today there are plenty of nice, bright, high lumen, up to 4K 3D projectors that use DLP glasses, and most have excellent synchronization, little to no ghosting at all compared to flat panels. But there still remains this allure or preconception that somehow, if they were to make a passive projector, that would somehow look better. And this blew up when Hisense had a press release about their PX3 Pro projector, and in the wording it used very fleetingly the expression that it would have polarized 3D. Now, this was kind of ran with, and some people thought this means it'll be passive 3D, which uses polarized glasses. But many of us also thought right off the bat that this had to be a typo, because after all, that happens a lot with 3D. It's even people who are tech experts in other areas often have very little knowledge or experience about 3D, and these subtlety of terms can be easily confused. And sometimes that's even been used in common usage by experts, such as the 3D Film Archive, and on the backs of some of their releases they'll say this includes the polarized 3D version, and of course there's nothing polarized about a 3D movie on a disc. It's just the left and right views, and your display does the rest. And most displays nowadays are active shutter anyway. And some could argue that, oh, well, there's technically some polarization involved, so it's accurate, but I mean, there's also polarization involved in 2D LCD screens, which is not for a 3D purpose, so let's just keep it real. It's not technically accurate. So the misunderstanding was understandable, especially on the part of people who maybe don't understand that passive 3D would require a special silver screen. It wouldn't work on a normal projector screen. And the concept that active 3D is more expensive now is long outdated. Active shutter glasses are extremely cheap and lightweight nowadays. So you wouldn't be saving anything by using real D glasses. In fact, you'd be spending more on the screen and probably get a darker image too. But this misunderstanding was reinforced by an industry insider who met with representatives of this company and then went on forums and online and talked about his experience, and unfortunately he ran with it himself and added a lot of speculation beyond what the company ever told him. So it was seeming for a time, well, maybe it really is going to be passive 3D. But then the company made a quiet edit to their description, calling it active 3D now. And P.S., in case anybody's wondering about projectors in the movie theater, well, aren't they passive? Well, actually, no. Most of the projectors in movie theaters are active, and they have an active filter over top of the front, the single lens, that flickers the polarity back and forth to match the polarity of the passive glasses that everybody wears. So it's basically like having shutter glasses on the projector instead of every person in attendance. So moving on, and speaking of 3D in the theater, there was also some talk recently in the 3D community about, and there is off and on, about glasses free in the theater. That's one of these holy grails that pops up now and again, and cut to the chase, it's not really going to happen. But there's an Asian company called Haled, if that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure. And sometimes folks will share information from them as if it's a news story based on their periodic press releases or articles online or viral videos of their so-called 3D displays in public. And it's understandable because they use phrases like naked eye 3D for these displays. It would be interesting to find out if they actually do any autostereoscopic screens, because like I said, their wording is very confusing and tends to favor the idea that it's based on curvature of the screens, perspective, and other tricks such as extending beyond letterboxing, such as in this demo video posted on their YouTube channel years ago. But probably the most common is the curved screens that you'll see videos shared over and over of in public. Of this they say, the naked eye 3D screens are all composed of two images from different angles. Now that can of course lead you to think they're talking about a stereoscopic video, but it says of those two images, this screen is folded by 90 degrees, using a specific video customized for the big screen materials that conform to the principle of perspective. The left screen shows the left view of the image and the right shows the main image when people stand in front of the corner and watch. They can see the side and front at the same time, presenting a three-dimensional effect. So it's not talking about a left image for a left eye, right image for a right eye. It sounds very much like it's just talking about the two parts of the screen on the opposite sides of the curve. Now 3D in the theater has been tried before, but it's just not practical. Notably in the 1950s with the Soviet version of Robinson Crusoe, a black and white 3D film that they attempted to show in glasses-free 3D, but the seating had to be very specific, of course. But if you want to see some of that footage restored for modern 3D displays, you can see that as one of the many vintage 3D bonus material on my release of Outlaw Territory, which is now on Blu-ray. It'll be available only from varietyfilms.net. And now moving on to phones. For the iPhone 15 Pro, which I have. Records spatial video with 2 of the cameras, stereoscopic video really. And with this Spatialify app, you can convert that to SBS, side by side. And now there's a screen cover that you can put on the iPhone 15 Pro or the Pro Max. There's one for each model that turns it into a glasses-free 3D display. Now, there have been this type of product before for over a decade ago. They did this with other camera models, iPhones and Samsung. Honestly, it didn't work good at all. It had ghosting, it had low resolution, very limited viewpoint. This one says that it is compatible with eye tracking, so it would be interesting to see more first-hand experiences from people who know what they're looking for, but they're also very pricey. So these screen protectors cost $95 US, $35 shipping to the US. That's $130. For some people, maybe that's worth it to make their iPhone have a glasses-free 3D display. And honestly, I can't tell you if it's worth it because I'm not gonna gamble with that. It's not something I need. But I would be very interested if anyone buys it. Let me know in the comments below, or make a video yourself. Say objectively how it is, the pros and cons. I'd be really curious. But if you want a glasses-free 3D display and it doesn't have to be your phone, there's plenty of other options. You can always buy like a used Rocket phone. Those look amazing, high resolution. Also, Coolpad in China released the Grand View 3, which has a glasses-free 3D screen. This is an Android phone, and they have a couple different models. Not sure about how 5G compatibility would work in the United States, so I wouldn't even recommend that. But on a better note, Leia, who makes great quality products such as the LoomPad 2 and successors which will be coming, they're also working on a 3D mobile phone. So that's what we can really look forward to if Android is your thing, especially because they have a great 3D ecosystem in place, and they have always had 3D cameras on their devices. And on a more interesting note, one other option for phones was sold by an Adrian Tunkin from Thailand. There's different names used among these products. Holo Shader, there's a stick itself that you plug into your phone called the Rekindle stick. And then the app you download, Universal 3D Player. But the point of all these is you plug this stick into your Android phone, USB-C, and if your phone is 90 Hertz or higher refresh rate, then in most cases it can turn your phone into a 3D display for use with normal DLP shutter glasses. I tried the first version, has a single LED that flashes for sync, and when it works, it looks very nice. It looks like you would expect. And it has a easy to use app that you can watch your videos in different formats, full side by side, half side by side, still images. The only problem is it feels more like a work in progress than a finished product. And he also sent me another unit of a new and improved version. This one has 2 LEDs that's supposed to improve staying in sync, and it barely improved it. For me, at least, it will show good 3D towards the center or certain parts, but one part will be completely ghosted. I see both at the same time. And it will frequently lose signal altogether or reverse the eyes. In fact, I would say, for me, it doesn't work more often than it does work. And the Samsung phone I was using runs at a pretty consistent 120 Hertz. So this may vary across every individual phone or different models of phone, unfortunately. Eric Kurland has posted his experiences about that how he's tried it with a Samsung phone, and he said the second version worked much better for him. He noted the same problems that I had, but seemed to be much less severe in his case. So this was a great concept. This is something we've talked about before, the idea of making a separate converter for 2D screens that have a minimum refresh rate to make them active 3D. Something we talked about doing with televisions even. But it's looking like inconsistencies across manufacturers and even across individual models may be too big of a hurdle if this is the case. And this definitely couldn't be a product that has wide market appeal if it's not something that you can consistently get a quality experience with. But if it does work with your model, great. But I guess the only way to know is to try. But anyway, that's about it for today. I'll see you next time.